Right, what's happening everyone? Welcome back to the show. I'm Timmy Foodie. I hope you've been enjoying the channel. So I'm really going to try and keep these recipes a little bit shorter because I tried one the other day and it was like an hour long and it was quite a complicated recipe, but it's I don't know, I think I just waffle too much. So I'm going to try and do a few quicker, less waffly recipes. So what I'm going to take you through, I'll do ingredients, tell you what we're going to cook, and then I'll smash out some chopping. You don't need to see any of that, and then we'll get straight into the cooking of it. What we're going to do today is a nice little frittata. So what we need here, and if you can see, I've got a little bowl, freshly grated Parmesan, I've got some mushrooms, some broccolini, got some courgette or a zucchini, got an onion, and just some nice eggs that I've got in the fridge just here. And these are really great Malone Creek eggs. They're just awesome. They're my favourite eggs in Australia. Organic, free range, proper free range as well. Like you're talking like 200 hens per hectare, so which is really, really good. So, or 250 birds per hectare. So not 10,000, which is what the RSPCA says is free range, but it's not. So don't fucking believe them. So these are awesome. You can get them from Harris Farm in New South Wales. But yeah, hunt around and find some good eggs because it's really important to get good quality eggs. So for this, I think we're going to use 6 eggs, should just about cover us off in this pan. One more if I can count, there we go. But it depends how many you're cooking for and what you're doing in terms of like what your pan size is and all that. So you just have to kind of figure it out. But 6 eggs generally will cook a nice size frittata in a pan about this sort of 28 to 30 centimetre kind of size. So I reckon that's, yeah, pretty good size. So what we will do is chop up all this stuff and then we'll get cracking into the thing. With the onion, I'll just take you through that, I guess. We're just gonna do, probably half an onion, I don't need more than that. I'll save that and put that in the fridge and use that for something in the next few days. Probably the zucchini, I don't need all of that. I'll probably do half of that as well. I'll use all those mushrooms because they need using up. But with this, I'm just gonna do kind of slices like this. I mean, do a few the other way as well. Doesn't really matter, just nice and rough little slices like that is great. Zucchini, I'm gonna use, I might get away with all of it actually, just kind of top and tail it. And we're gonna just, I've just sort of given it a wash. I'm gonna just cut these in like that, kind of lengthways, and then just cut them across into, random little sizes. Again, it doesn't have to be, super consistent in terms of sizes, just sort of mix it up a bit, and that's gonna, cover us off, nicely. Actually, that's probably enough, so half a zucchini. The broccolini we're gonna do, I don't know, this is, it's probably just about past its best, but it's still got a bit of crunch to it. But I'm just gonna do literally just like that. Maybe not that bit. That's probably about right, maybe one more. Again, these need using up a bit, so I'm just kind of, super rough. And then the mushrooms, we're gonna, I go in half and then just cut across them like that. That's good. Just do that with the mushrooms. We'll smash all the rest of that out. I'll crack all the eggs and then we'll get on to the next step. What I'm actually going to do is get these frying off and I'll finish chopping those as we're cooking these down, just so you can kind of see what we're doing. I'm going to cook the zucchinis and the onion together, I think. They're all looking a good sort of size. That's good. And then we'll do the mushrooms and then the broccolini in all at once, let it all cook down. And then that should kind of cover us off. What I want to do here is use have a little bit of butter, just sort of chopped, that's about 25 grams. I'll just chop that into little cubes and then we can kind of add that in as we need it, just bit by bit. We've got some olive oil here and some salt and pepper. That's about all we need. I've got a bit of fresh basil over here as well, which I'm going to stir through the eggs when we whisk that up. Eggs and parmesan and basil and stuff is just super good, so Yeah, that's getting a nice bit of heat in it, bit of oil. No butter in this just yet, we'll add that in a minute. Let's just get the onions in there. So a nice sort of medium to high heat should do us nicely on this one. Get the zucchinis in at the same time. We can cook these in at the same time because they're probably going to cook down about a similar sort of rate. And these will cook the longest, which is why we're putting them in first. Bit of salt, bit of pepper. Very nice. Maybe just another little extra little drizzle of that. Let's give it just a little toss around. Perfect. Let's get just a wooden spoon. Again, because this is non-stick pan, so try not to use metal in these. And we're just going to stir that around. Looking good, very nice. And that's all nicely tossed around. I'm going to turn that down to just a nice medium heat now and just let them tick along. We want the onions to soften and we want the zucchinis just to take on a little bit of colour. And that's awesome. So what I'm going to do, while that's doing that, I'm going to finish chopping these mushrooms and then we'll come back and do the next step. So mushrooms chopped now. This has started on to take a bit of colour. That was about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. That's just starting to cook down really nicely. It's not too hot. I think that's about right. I don't think we want to go much hotter than this. That can just do its thing. While that's doing that, let's just do our eggs. Hopefully I don't fuck any of these ones up. Ooh, almost. So just crack these into this. Now, because I'm putting Parmesan in this thing, that was a good one, wasn't it? Because I'm putting Parmesan in this, I don't want to put any salt in these eggs because Parmesan's already quite salty, so you don't really need the extra salt. And because we're seasoning these things that we're going to be putting in it, you just don't need to, overdo it really. So, so there's our eggs. What we'll do, we'll get just a fork out, give these a whisk up. You can either use a whisk or a fork. I prefer to use a fork because I just find it's a little bit easier. Give that a little stir around. That's looking good. Actually, let's turn our oven on now as well. About 180 degrees centigrade. I think that's good. So this is whisked up. Now I've got a bit of basil that I've just given a rinse. Probably about right. I'm just going to fold all that up and then just cut through. This basil was, just on the verge of, turning and not being great, but it's great for something like this because it doesn't need to look pretty or anything. It just sort of off colours a bit, but it's still fine, It's better than wasting it. We're going to pop that in the eggs. Awesome. I'm going to get a handful of the cheese. I'm going to save a little bit for the sprinkling on top, but I think that's a good amount. Give that a little toss. See, that's just starting to take on a nice bit of colour. Perfect. And what else are we doing? Just give that another little mix up. I'm going to put a bit of freshly ground black pepper into this. Perfect. And then I might actually get some garlic for this stuff. Just give that a nice little mix up. So that's just eggs, pepper, Parmesan cheese, and some fresh basil. Perfect. That's great. So I think that's probably hot enough. I'm going to turn that down to a 4 now. And this is just, you can kind of see these got starting to get some nice kind of darker bits on it, and the onions kind of cooking down a bit. I mean, I'd probably ideally want to cook the onions a little bit slower than this, but it's fine. A couple of knobs of butter in there now, why the hell not? I'm going to now put in my mushies. And again, just a touch more salt and pepper, just for the mushrooms. Again, you'll notice this is a running theme with me. I always season for each ingredient, and then you know you get the seasoning right. I might actually, I've got some fresh parsley over here that needs using up a bit as well, so I'm going to just, not too much, that's just like a little mini handful really. Just run the knife through, and we'll toss that through there in a minute. Yeah, that's perfect. Oh, throw your mushrooms around the kitchen. I think we've lost that one to the depths of the floor. I can turn this pan up a touch now because we've got a few more ingredients in here, so give that a nice little toss around. Let's get those mushrooms in there. Yeah, so that's pretty good. I think what we're going to do, oh god, I'm making a mess, is get that cooking down a bit. And then in terms of what you put in this, any mix of vegetables is going to work. So you can go with, you know, capsicums or peppers, chili, you could do sweet potato, pumpkin, any mix of veggies you want really, whatever you like. Well, I mean, this is kind of been based off what I had in the fridge. It was left over from what I didn't use in my stew the other day. So it just seems, it's just worked out quite nicely. So I think a bit of garlic in this is going to be good. So let's go grab a clove, which we're running out of, but I think we've got a nice little clove there. Not a massive one, just a nice sort of smallish size. I think that's probably about right. We're just going to peel that. Very nice. I've got stuff all over the floor already. This is not a good sign. Keep that stirring around. And yes, whip that off. This is our not very nice garlic, but whatever. And we're just going to really gently just run that through, nice fine little chops. Perfect. And then let's just go through this way. And you can actually mix that up with the parsley. And you get this lovely parsley kind of garlic parsley thing going on, which we'll just then toss through that in a bit. And again, we don't want this to cook off too much once it's in there. So, and actually you'll find the parsley kind of takes a bit of the bite out of the garlic in terms of the strength of the flavour. So it's just super nice. It's looking good. That's getting a bit hot again, so I'm just going to knock that down again now, down to a 4. Starting to do its thing. Add our last 2 little knobs of butter. Just get something to wipe my hands with. And then I'm just going to pop in our parsley and garlic mix into there. Give that a little toss round. Yeah, that smells beautiful. Proper nice. Yeah, and I mean, if you're a meat eater and you want to add some meat into this, you could get some chorizo diced up, fry it off in this. If you do that, do it at the beginning with the onions and the courgettes. You could do bacon if you wanted to, or you know, whatever you've got in the fridge, little bits of chicken maybe, but I want this one just to be veggie, so there's more than enough flavours going on in there, but a bit of chorizo in this would be banging. So just give that another little mix up. I think that's a good amount. And then what you'll find is when we put that in the oven, it's going to like souffle up and kind of puff up. Let's put our little bits of broccolini in now. So I'm putting this in at the end because it doesn't take very long to cook, and it's probably going to finish off cooking a bit when it's in the oven. So from this point, I'm talking like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, tossing this broccolini around. You'll notice it when is the right kind of time, because it will start to darken, the green will start to darken in colour, and you'll probably just start to smell that kind of broccoli vibe going on. And that's when you know you're about ready to put in the eggs. So yeah, that's starting to look really good. Very nice. So let's just cook that for another like 2 minutes, and then we'll come to the next stage. That's had about a minute, but I had a genius idea. I got these awesome ox heart tomatoes in my fruit bowl, so I'm going to actually put these in here when we put the egg in. So I'm just going to slice these up into about centimetre thick slices, and then cut one down there, and then just like that into kind of nice little chunks like that. I think that's about right, down the middle and then across. If you're cutting tomatoes, you need quite a sharp knife to do it. I'm lucky with this one, but just be careful when you're doing it. I think, see, the whole thing now is trying to balance the flavours and guessing how much you're going to need in there. I think maybe 1 tomato is probably about right, and I'll save this one and do some avo and tomato on toast or something. I think that's probably about right. Beautiful. So that's had 2 minutes since we put in the little broccolini bits. That's looking really nice. Now at this point, what I want to do is just get this a nice flat across the base, spread it out, get it nice and even if you can, and a nice mix of things dotted around. I'm going to turn this down to a 2 now because it doesn't really want to cook too much. And then we're just going to drop in our little chunks of tomato dotted around this little thing. It doesn't have to be super precise, but you don't want it all in one big clump. I mean, you could put this in and toss it around if you wanted to, but these tomato, I want it to sort of stay quite fresh and not cook too much in the in this mixture, because I want it to almost finish cooking off in the egg mix. So that's looking really good. Now, here's where I've probably forgotten some utterly important stage, but I think we're good. Give that a final little mix. So remember, this is eggs whisked up with fresh basil, black pepper, and a handful of freshly gated Parmesan, and that's the good, aged 24 months Parmesan Reggiano. And then now we just literally pour this all around there, just like that. Very nice. And just like make sure it all settles and kind of balances it around, and you'll have this thing sticking out, but remember, this is going to puff up all the egg. And then now with the last bit of Parmesan, I'm just going to sprinkle that all across the top. That's probably enough. You could do a mix of other cheese if you wanted to. I was going to say if you're vegan then don't use cheese, but if you're vegan you ain't going to be eating this because it's got eggs in it. So this is strictly a vegetarian dish. I'm going to do a little bit more. These microplane graters are so good, but they're super sharp, so if you do get one, they're very good at grating cheese, but they're also very good at grating skin off you, so just be a bit careful because it hurts like a motherfucker. Oh fuck, see, I almost did it then. Little bit of fresh pepper, and then just because we can, let's do a little like that, because I don't know why the hell not. That's perfect. So that's just sort of cooked off with the heat underneath just slightly, but we don't really need to do much more than that. What I'm going to do now is just pop this in the oven in about 180, 170 degrees centigrade. It's a fan oven. I'm going to put the whole thing in, so actually that's what I should have started this with. You need to use a pan that you can put in the oven, so make sure it's got a metal handle, and then also make sure when you get it out of the oven, don't just get it out picking up by the handle. But we'll get to that stage. I probably will and burn myself because I do that sort of shit all the time. So yeah, there we go. That's how that looks. Super awesome. Pop it in the oven. I'm hoping this pan fits, to be honest with you. I think it just about does. Yep, awesome. That's a relief. That's the first time I've tried to use that pan in the oven, and it did fit, so that's good. So let's, I don't know, give that 10 minutes, have a check on it. It will basically puff up and start to brown on the top a bit. So it's probably total time in the oven 15 minutes. roughly speaking, I guess, but it depends how many eggs you've used, how big your pan is, how deep your pan is, stuff like that. So it's just a bit of trial and error, but you will notice it puffing up and going a bit golden on top, and so that's when you'll know it's kind of about right. So yeah, let's we'll be back in 10 or 15 minutes. I'll get it out and I'll show you what I mean, and then we'll serve it up. And I haven't actually thought what the fuck I'm going to even eat this with, so I just want to cook it. So this is going to be great for lunches. So even if you don't want to eat it tonight, the night you cook it, get it out, turn it out onto a plate, let it cool down, pop it in the fridge, and it will keep for like 4 or 5 days in the fridge easily. And you just portion it out like a pizza, you know, in the triangles, and you take that into lunch with you each day. Or it's great the next day as a lunch for friends come round as part of a mixed salad lunch with like new potatoes and some different salads and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's a great thing. And or just have it just exactly like that as a nice little lunchtime snack without anything else. I mean, it's got loads of good stuff in it. For, you know, vegetarians out there, really good source of protein and all the other bits in it. So yeah, so there we go. We'll be back in about 10 or 15 minutes, and we will, hopefully it will work, and I'll get to show you how awesome it is. So yeah, okay, we're back. We've been just over 10 minutes. I did turn the temperature up a little bit to about 200 degrees centigrade, but I don't know if I necessarily needed to do that. I was probably being a little bit impatient. But I've just had a check and it's looking very good. So make sure, I mean, obviously, don't just get it out the oven without a handle thing. Now, when you do this and you've got the pan out the oven, always keep whatever you've brought it out the oven with around the handle, because you'll take that away and then you'll be like, oh yeah, and then you'll just naturally go and grab it and you will burn yourself, and I guarantee you will do that because I do it all the time. So there we go, there's our awesome frittata. How good does that look? It's all nicely cooked. You can check if it's got a nice spring to it, you know all that egg's cooked through, and you don't want to overcook the egg too much, and these tomatoes have still got a nice bit of, you know, feel to them, and you know, so I'm pretty happy with that. That's awesome. But the only problem now is, how do you get the fucker out of the pan? There's a few ways. I've got a nice silicone thing here that I'm just loosening, but this is a really good non-stick pan, so I know it ain't gonna be stuck. And if you want to check, you can kind of try and slide it a bit and it'll wobble around. It's already getting really hot. But what you need to do is either have a plate big enough for the pan and the frittata you've made, which I didn't think about, so that is never going to work. So I don't actually know what I'm going to do with this. What the fuck am I going to do here? Alright, chopping board, that's what we're going to do. So, get yourself a nice big chopping board that you just happen to have behind you. And then we're going to put that on top and try and turn this over without it going everywhere, which could be a bit, oh no, I almost fucking did that. Jesus, this is going to go horribly wrong, I feel like. You've got to just pick it up somehow and rotate the fucker over. Fucking hell. And then, whoop, yeah, look at that. It has flattened a bit because I let some of the heat go out of it, but that's pretty awesome. Now the other thing is, how do you then turn it round the other way? If you had a big enough plate, you could sort of do that and then flip the fucker back over, but it's going to overhang the thing, but maybe that's what we're going to do. And I kind of have squashed it a bit, I think, but it's sort of worked. Look at that. Oh, and that's my timer, but that was set to 15 minutes, so yeah, so then and now with this, I guess what I can do is just tease it off the plate, and perfect, there we go. And there is our nice frittata. So if I had a deeper pan, it would be smaller and fatter, but because this pan was wider like this, it's kind of come out about the thickness of a pizza, so it's about perfect, really. Proper nice. And then what you do is get yourself a little knife, or a big knife, and I mean, you could let it cool down just a little bit, and essentially you're just going to chop it like a pizza. If you got a pizza cutter, that would actually work quite nicely, but I don't have a pizza cutter for some weird reason, considering I have all the gadgets. So I'm just going to cut very carefully and just try and sort of, I mean, it's going to be, sometimes it's harder to cut through these tomatoes, but you see how it's sort of squashed on itself there. But that's pretty good. And then let's get a nice little plate. And like I said, I mean, you can just have this like this as a beautiful little snack. And there we go. I don't know if my camera is going to actually follow and track focus anymore, but you can see the frittata there. So yeah, super tasty, delicious, good mix of mushrooms and veggies, and this would be great with leeks and all kinds of stuff in. So whatever you've got in the fridge, chuck it in and it's going to be tasty. If you want to make it meaty, then you can yeah, chorizo, bacon, you know, little bits of beef or pork, or you know, whatever you've got. But I love this as a veggie thing, and then on the side of this you can just have some mixed salads, some steamed, you know, or new potatoes, you know, carrot salad, pasta salad, you know, whatever you want. But yeah, as you can see, super tasty. And that wasn't, you know, it didn't take too long. It's quite a quick and simple recipe. Just do what doing it like I did with frying off all the stuff beforehand, just gets all the beautiful flavours out of it. And yeah, it's awesome. So there we go, super tasty, nice little frittata. That I'm going to portion out, probably stack it on this plate somehow, and then get that covered, stick it in the fridge, and then that's my lunch is sorted for the rest of the week. And I might do a nice dinner with it in a few days, and yeah, do something nice with it. So yeah, you can even put it in a sandwich, I guess. That might be quite cool. So you know, adding bread is never a bad thing. So yeah, there we go. There's my awesome frittata. Cheers for tuning in, and we'll be back in a few days for something else. I have no idea what yet. I've got all this excess food to eat, so I've got to finish off my fucking stew and all this now. So I don't know what I physically can't eat all this food. I need more people around to eat all this stuff. So if you want to come round and eat some of my food, then give me a shout. So yeah, cheers for tuning in, and we'll be back very soon. Cheers, guys.